And of course, I wanted everything to be delicious. Really delicious, not good. Really delicious. And we're still always in, the conversation in the restaurant and in the Edible Schoolyard kitchen, in the garden of the Edible Schoolyard. How can we make this better? What is your idea?
I can't tell you how humbled I am to be in this company. Some of you guys have been on this journey with us since day one, and some of you guys are new to our community. And let me paint that picture of where we've come, and ultimately it circles around gratitude. 8 years ago, when I started this organization, this was just a dirt lot and an empty, abandoned farmhouse. And so ultimately, this is our vision. This is our passion that we've come together and created this vibrant ecosystem of possibility. This dinner tonight is so special to me because so many of my favorite people are here, including Alice. And so I can't thank you enough for coming down and being part of our community because you've inspired ours.
And I had the very good luck to go to France when I was 19. And I was edibly seduced, you might say. And I went down to the bakery, and there was a wood oven, and I smelled the bread, and I bought the bread, and I came home to my little apartment with some apricot jam and some of that great French butter. And I said, "Ooh, we got to go down there tomorrow." And then we started looking at the little restaurants, and they were all kind of mom-and-pop places. Young people were part of it because they were done as kind of a family affair. And they seated about 45 people, always had a little bar on the side. And they even had these little compartments where people who were regular would keep their napkins so that they didn't, of course, you never get your napkin dirty in France. I came back from France and I wanted to live like that. They gave free tickets to students to go to concerts and museums. It was a very big picture of culture. We went out and we had picnics in the parks, and I completely fell in love. And that was the beginning of everything. I was in search of taste I think in the big picture of taste. But that's why, really I started the restaurant. Now, mind you, I had a little interlude learning about education at an international Montessori school. In 1968, if you can imagine, I was in London in 1968. And I had a friend, I just am in the midst of writing this memoir, which I didn't think I wanted to do, but it was tagged on to my other books, and I realized I have to do this. So I'm doing it between sort of birth and the beginning of Chez Panisse, so I can tell you how empowered I was by the counterculture of that time. I mean, I knew if I opened a restaurant that people would come because they wanted to support people who were, your friends, and they were doing something very different than the establishment. And we could never get a loan for the restaurant. We had to just borrow from dope dealers. No. Actually, my parents mortgaged their house so that we could have the money. And luckily, the real estate was very inexpensive at that time, and I made my one very thrilling financial decision. I wanted to own the building. So we had a lease with an option to buy. And we bought the building 2 years after for $28,000. And it saved Chez Panisse. let me
Alice,
tell you.
when you were starting the restaurant and building a movement of following in Berkeley in the early 70s, how hard was it sourcing local food with integrity?
Well, I wasn't trying to build a movement. I never, ever imagined that this would be anything other than a neighborhood restaurant, truly and deeply. It was just for my friends. And we were on the lookout all the time. So we were going to farm stands at the beginning because nothing tasted really good like it did in France. And so we went to Chinatown because they were hanging the ducks, but I'm not sure the ducks were being fed anything divine, but they looked like a French, butcher shop. And I mean, we were that naive about it. And it wasn't until we really found a forager, and that was very important for us, to have one person who was on the staff that was going out and searching for the farms and for the producers. One of the first ranchers we found was Frank Del Porto when he was raising lambs. And we invited him to come for dinner, and then we all went out to the farm, and he said, well, I'll bring you, we've never had spring lambs, we never slaughtered them that young. And he said, but I'll do them for you if you really want to pay the price. And so that's how it began, as simply as that. And then we had something else very important, and I'm sure you've had a tasting of summer produce out here at these tables. But we invited all the chefs and all the farmers that we could to a tasting. And we talked about what we cooked for the farmers, and then we talked about what we really like to have them plant. And that was the beginning, I think, of the farm to table movement. And I think that's what really inspired the farmers markets in San Francisco, absolutely, without question, and was an extension of that. And once the farmers realized that we were willing to pay the price, they immediately became connected. And it was paying the price for the precious food that they grow. And what has made this place, I know, so successful is that you have made it beautiful. And you have created these long tables that I saw out there, which feel like everyone is invited. And it reminds me of what we want to do ultimately for the public school system. We want school lunch to become an academic subject. We want kids to eat together at the tables, take their time, discover the cuisines all around the world. And I can't think of anything more important to equality than beginning this when they're very little and feeding every single child for free at school from food that's grown by Ron Finley and by yourself. So that's the plan. That's the plan. So get going. Get going. And yeah, but wouldn't it be great if the food were locally grown and that were the criteria for the buying it for the schools? It could change farming overnight in this country. 20% of the kids are in school. So I'm wanting a soda tax to begin to make these projects real, because people need to see the change that we're going to make in the world. They need to walk into it and believe in it. And so I don't know whether this begins city by city or state by state. Ultimately, the government needs to believe and to pay for it. But we need a soda tax so that we can begin to make this happen. And we need a big soda tax, I think, so that we can really pay the farmers the real cost of the food. And so that's my campaign that I'm so I'm so intent on at this moment in time. We want, of course, gardens and kitchens in schools as laboratories for all the academic subjects. But the school lunch right away would end childhood hunger and bring the values of the farmers into the schools. Now that was something that changed Chez Panisse. That once we got a farmer, wonderful farmer Bob Kennard, we used to tell him what we wanted him to plant, and now he tells us what he wants us to cook.
I came back and I was lucky enough to find this old farmhouse in a dirt lot, and I said, you know what, these ideas could take root here. I believe that they could, and I found people that believed in that dream. Each of you guys have supported that cause, and slowly we literally just started pulling this together. We started planting trees, we started building programs, we started hosting festivals and events, engaging our schools and children, and all along the way building community. And it feels so good to be here in Orange County with you guys, because the possibility for change in Orange County is greater than anywhere else. There's over 3.5 million people in this place, and the consciousness of possibility hasn't yet been shifted. And so we get to do that. We get to design what our future looks like, and if we don't do it, no one does. So fun is that we get to acknowledge these chefs as being leaders in our food community, and for taking the philosophy that Alice started at Chez Panisse and bringing that into their restaurants day in and day out. And so there's, I think, 13 chefs that we want to recognize today. We started something called the Community Table Accord, which is really a manifesto that organizes us all around a sustainable food community. And maybe, Alice, would you hold up the poster? Because I want Alice to sign this, and then we're going to bring the chefs up to acknowledge them. But we created 10 principles. And this dinner, as well as the dinners at our community table each month as part of our book project, which really starts to communicate about what does the sustainable community look like. And so here's the 10 principles that I'm going to read out. It starts with eating fresh and seasonal, just basic, right? Whatever's in season, let's celebrate that. Local, taking the seasonality beyond just produce and thinking that there's local producers throughout our communities. Organic as the building block, the foundation of a sustainable and regenerative agriculture. I thought respect animals was a very important principle, and that if we choose to consume them, we respect them, and we work with animals that have been stewarded with integrity. Growing your own is really about participating in food, whether it's growing small gardens like this or getting to know a garden in your school. Celebrate diversity, which is really talking about consuming a variety of foods and a rainbow of color. Promoting polycultures. This starts to think about our agricultural landscapes as the opposite of a monoculture, right? So that they're dynamic ecosystems and they're regenerative. Nourish all children. This is coming from Alice's vision of us nourishing all of our children in all of our schools. Educate for change is that each of us get to now be catalysts for change. These chefs are working in their communities to spread the word, and each of us are working in our communities. And ultimately, the last one, which is what we're here to do, is celebrate the harvest. So these are the 10 tenets that we've pulled together that hopefully you guys raise your hand and think that this is a good idea too. We can all engage in at least a few of these. And so we're grateful. Alice inspired these 10 principles. These chefs embody them. And so I wanted to bring the chefs up, and we'll do a little photo opportunity. So I'm going to call the chefs up, but I'm going to call them just up here in the order. We have Ryan Adams from 370 Common. Round of applause. Thank you guys. These guys have been cooking Green Feast since day one. We're so grateful for you guys and bringing sustainable food into your communities. Paul Buchanan of Primal Alchemy. Chef Carrie of our team, Carrie Cacciata. Thank you. Greg Daniels, Haven. I actually can just look at the chefs. David Pratt from Brick. Pascal Ohats from Pascal's. Patty Glennon, our hero. Fishmonger, Culinary Liberation. Jason McLeod, come on up. All these amazing chefs. Oh, Kathy, Debbie, Rob. You guys are hiding.
We're here.
Ryan Wilson.
We're here.
Yeah. Who else am I missing? Rich Mead, of course, the founder of all the... Come on up, guys. You're hiding. That's not my fault. So thank you guys for the years of dedication to our work and the years ahead of bringing sustainability every day into the kitchens that you guys cook at. So we'll do a little photo op if I'll jump in this one.